You've listened to podcasts giving advice on how to deal with life's significant emotional events. But did you find yourself wanting more? Are you inspired by big ideas in the science of self-improvement, but you're not sure how to reach your goals? No One is Coming, It's Up to Us provides concrete examples of real people tackling life's problems. Join Thad and his guests on this mission to find the confidence and clarity necessary for a life of fulfillment, prosperity, and happiness.
You are not your job. You're not how much money you have in the bank. You're not the car you drive. You're not the contents of your wallet. You're not your fucking khakis.
Hello, my name is Thad, and I'm a work role centralist. Do I want to punch this dude in the face, or do I want to hang out with him? Strivers seek professional success to deliver satisfaction and happiness. And I want you to hear the words that I just said. They seek professional success to deliver satisfaction and happiness. How much do you think about your job outside the office? Is your mind frequently consumed with work-related thoughts? Is it difficult to participate in conversations with others that are not about your work? In this episode, we're going to talk about work role centrality and self-objectification, what it is, how it affects us, and how we can overcome it. Have you ever read the book, or maybe you've seen the movie Fight Club? It stars Edward Norton and Brad Pitt. It's one of my favorite movies from the late 90s. It's deep in the way that men feel trapped by their jobs, and there are lots of nuggets of truth throughout the movie. My favorite quote of the movie being the one you just heard, when Tyler Durden explains to Edward Norton's character, "You are not your job. You are not how much money you have in the bank. You are not the car you drive. You are not the contents of your wallet. You are not your fucking khakis. You are the all singing, all dancing crap of the world." Now, that movie has themes that I don't necessarily agree with. So I like to take that quote and put my own application to it, which is kind of at the center of this episode. The truth is there. You are not those things. And if you are careful, you will be the all singing, all dancing crap of the world. So, what is work role centrality? I think it's important to distinguish the difference between work role centrality and work centrality. Now, I'm no psychologist, so please don't take any of this as gospel. It's just my view on the subject. So, work centrality is defined as the importance that the individual assigns to work in comparison to other life spheres such as leisure, family, and religion. So, a highly work centered person has a piece of their identity that's assigned to work related experiences. I think we all fall into that category. Now, according to Dr. Robert Leahy, work role centrality simply means that work is central to the sense of who you are. So, for example, a person with high work role centrality, if they lose their jobs, they end up suffering more. They are more likely to be depressed and anxious and more likely to feel that there's less purpose in their lives. Their identity and purpose seem to disappear when they lose their job. So it's a very subtle difference, but I think it's enough to contrast the two. Work centrality, work is important, ranked higher compared to other parts of your life, work role centrality, work has become the main part of your identity. Hello, my name is Thad, and I'm a work role centralist. Inner self objectification. I don't know why that word is so hard for me to say. It's like there's too many syllables in there. They don't really mesh well, but at any rate, if you aren't familiar with Arthur C. Brooks, take some time to read his works. He's an economist, social scientist, Harvard professor, a failed French horn player, friends with the Dalai Lama, devout Catholic, and published author. The kind of guy that you can't decide, do I want to punch this dude in the face or do I want to hang out with him? Dude is next level. You might find yourself hanging on his every word. So he recently wrote an article for The Atlantic titled "A Profession is Not a Personality." And in that article, Brooks says that too many people who work hard and strive for success self objectify as excellent work machines and tools of performance. And he's actually got another book called Strength from Strength to Strength, where he talks about strivers, essentially people that have always go on to bigger and better things and accomplish one thing after another and get better and better. And we're going to do another episode about that. So strivers seek professional success to deliver satisfaction and happiness. Now, I want you to hear the words that I just said. They seek professional success to deliver satisfaction and happiness. So let's put a pin in that thought and we're going to come back to it here momentarily. But when you think about self objectification, when you, in the terms of satisfaction and success, self objectification makes both those things impossible, setting us up for a life of joyless accomplishment and unreachable goals, followed by the tragedy of let me fucking do this whole thing again. Strivers seek professional success to deliver satisfaction and happiness, but self objectification makes both impossible, setting us up for a life of joyless accomplishment and unreachable goals, followed by the tragedy of inevitable decline. You see, as a work role centralist, when you associate satisfaction and happiness with your identity, aka your job or job performance or career, you're placing chains on your actual satisfaction and happiness because those are things that you can't really control. You can't control what your boss tells you to do or what the company wants you to do or the customer that comes in that yells at you. Those things are out of your control. Brooks goes on to break down objectification. He basically explains the normal objectification that we're used to hearing about is people are reduced to physical attributes through objectifying stares or harassment, and that can lower self-confidence and it can also lower competence in the task at hand. The philosopher Immanuel Kant referred to this as becoming an object of appetite for another, at which point all motives of moral relationship cease to function. So normally we're used to hearing objectification in a physical sense. It's usually used in terms of men objectifying women, things like that. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. So back in 2021, three French researchers in the Journey of Psychology noted that workplace objectification may lead to job burnout, dissatisfaction, and depression. It's important to note that this is a two-way street. So let's say you're a manager. If you treat your employees like disposable labor, that's one way of the street. Or if you're the employee and you see your boss or your company as nothing more than a provider of money, that's the other part of the street. So there's some balance in there. So no one's going to argue that objectifying others it's a fairly straightforward and generally not a great idea. But as Brooks points out, it's equally damaging when the objective and the person being objectified are the same. This is self objectification. I know for me, I do this constantly. I assess my self worth on these terms. I mess up one thing, and in my head, I think you're an idiot, or my physical appearance isn't what I really wanted to look like. Maybe my bank account doesn't have the amount of money I want in it, or the savings account doesn't have what I think should be in there. These are the kind of things that you get from self objectification, especially when, for somebody like me, when you think about career. So here's a situation: you go to a 4th of July barbecue with one of your friends, and they introduce you to some folks that you've never met before. What's the first thing that typically comes up in the conversation? Oh, hey, hi, I'm Bill. What do you do for work? That's how much importance we put on this. You are 5 minutes into meeting these people and just want to go straight to work. Now, some of you might be saying, but yeah, that saves time and it gives you something to talk about. And potentially you can find common ground, especially if you work in similar career fields. But there's also something that says that you're planting seeds in your brain based on the value of work or jobs. It really comes down to boiling your humanity into a single characteristics. And for me, that's work. So in the case of work role centrality, you end up judging your self-worth by either positively or negatively based on your job title. So how do you know if you self-objectify or place work central to your persona? Well, Arthur Brooks has done it again. And what Arthur says is ask yourself these questions. Is your job the biggest part of your identity? Is it the way you introduce yourself or even understand yourself? Do you find yourself sacrificing love relationships for work? Have you forgone romance, friendship, or starting a family because of your career? Do you have trouble imagining being happy if you were to lose your job or career? Does the idea of losing it feel a little like death to you? If you answered yes to any or all of these, recognize that you will never be satisfied as long as you objectify yourself. Holy Santa Claus shit, Arthur. It's like you looked into my brain. This is totally me. I mean, right on the money. I think I'm yes to every single one of these. Now, Dr. Jana Koretz, hope I'm saying that right. She is a psychologist and the founder of Azimuth, which provides therapy focused on unique challenges of individuals in high performing careers. And she has an article out there in the Harvard Business Review where she takes this a little bit further. When I mean takes it further, the line of questioning. She says, how much do you think about your job outside the office? Is your mind frequently consumed with work related thoughts? Is it difficult to participate in conversations with others that are not about your work? Yes, yes, and yes. Man, I hit all of those. Question number two: how do you describe yourself? How much of this description is tied up in your job title or company? Are are there any other ways you would describe yourself? How quickly do you tell people you've just met about your job? Really? I mean, how do you know if someone's a pilot? Easy. They'll tell you. Yeah, I think most type A personalities, this is us. Uh, and I think it could be in anything, you know. If you work for Goldman Sachs, you would say, "Hey, what do you do?" "Oh, I work for Goldman Sachs," which is your company. That's not what you do. I mean, you do work for them, but maybe you're a data analyst for Goldman Sachs. You get my point. Question number 3: where do you spend most of your time? Has anyone ever complained to you that you are in the office too much? Yes. My bosses, my wife, and my kids have all told me that over the course of forever. Question number 4: do you have hobbies outside of work that do not directly involve your work related skills and abilities? Are you able to consistently spend time exercising other parts of your brain? Yeah, that's going to be a no for me. Question number 5: how would you feel if you could no longer continue your profession? How distressing would this be to you? And I think Arthur Brooks kind of hit on this same question too. So for me, I feel like part of me is dead. If I could not fly airplanes or helicopters anymore, I would feel not great. So that question really brought it home for me. So I used to think that work gave me credibility and it gave me a sense of purpose. It defined who I was and what I bring to the table. I'd often see folks I work with not contributing on the level that I thought was required, and then I would judge them for not producing high volumes of work. So in the military, we use terms like shammer for people who are getting out of work intentionally but still get paid the same as everyone else. So you'll hear guys saying that guy's shamming, meaning he's cutting work to, you know, not do anything. And it didn't really hit me until spring of 2021. I had just taken a contract position with a startup aviation company. And this company was looking to place cargo planes in the United States and then hopefully get some US government special operations command contracts. And I quickly realized that the structure of the company from the top to the bottom was flawed, and the CEO had no idea what he was doing. And in my head, I thought, best case scenario, these people are willfully ignorant on best practices in aviation. And worst case scenario, this is some type of money laundering scam. So, this whole part of my life is going to be another episode because it is next level crazy. But we're not going to talk about that today. I'll try to stick to the point here. So, let me go back and tell you one crazy point from that. So, what's crazy is I was paid a very good salary. Let's just say it was six figures and more. And I was paid to sit at home with no purpose, no direction. There was no business strategy, and there was no intent to move the ball down the field. And this was soul crushing for me because work is central to my identity. It's central to my core. So, needless to say, the company started to flounder about 5 months later. And by 6 months, I saw the writing on the wall, and they missed payroll once. And they kind of made up this really lame excuse on why payroll was missed. And I just knew that the company was not going to last. So I decided to jettison myself from the situation. So I left the company in June of 2021 with no prospects of a job, and I was unemployed. I was sitting at home watching TV, eating Cheetos, feeling sorry for myself. So apparently, this is pretty common. So, according to an article in the Harvard Business Review by Dr. Janet Kurtz, again, hope I'm saying that right. I kind of referenced that a little bit earlier. Many people with high pressure jobs find themselves unhappy with their careers. Despite working hard their whole lives to get their current position, they end up hating their job. And hating your job is one thing, but what happens if you identify so closely with your work that hating your job means hating yourself? Holy crapola, that's me. So, psychologists use the term enmeshment to describe a situation where boundaries between people become blurred and individual identities lose importance. Enmeshment prevents the development of stable, independent sense of self. Totally enmeshed here, folks. I'm not enmeshed with another person, but I'm enmeshed with my career. So, if you've ever seen the movie Shawshank Redemption, there's a portion of the movie where one of the characters who's been in prison for life finally gets paroled. And he's an elderly man, and he gets placed in a job as a bagger in a supermarket, but he just can't adjust to living as a free man. He's been institutionalized, so he tries to commit a crime so he can get sent back to prison. I want to say I haven't seen the movie in probably 15 years, but there's a part of the movie I remember where he keeps asking the supervisor if he could go to the bathroom. And the supervisor's like, yeah, you don't have to ask, just go to the bathroom, dude. But remember, he'd been in prison his whole life where he had to ask to do those kind of things. So he tries to commit this crime so he can get sent back to prison. That doesn't work. And eventually he ends up taking his own life. And I'd be willing to bet that there's a lot of retired military folks that get in the same mindset, although not the same, but it's in the same vein that we're talking about here. Once you spend the majority of your life in the military, we're used to being part of a bigger team and part of something bigger than yourself. And then you get into the real world and you quickly realize that the things you're doing maybe aren't that important compared to what you were doing. So those things are typically motivated by money, which could be at opposites of how you think how you think of life as a person. In my case, I was out of a job, no purpose, no direction. It wasn't all terrible. I did have some money saved up from a very great salary where they sat around paying me to do nothing for 6 months. Those should have been the best 6 months of my life. I was essentially paid extremely well for doing little to no work, and I hated every minute of it. I would sit at my desk at home and wait for the phone to ring. I craved the structure of going to work and having a tangible outcome of making a product. And so, as luck would have it, the guy that took over for me at my previous job had decided to move on, and my old job became available. Fast forward 6 months, it's the summer of 2022, and in my head, I hate my job. I realize that I produce more work than my counterparts, but we all get paid exactly the same. I was constantly micromanaged and told how to do my job, even though I was more experienced in the actual conduct of the job than the managers who were telling me how to do the job, which further frustrated me and exacerbated the situation. A short 3 years ago, I was leading complex assaults against enemies of the United States off of aircraft carriers over the horizon into denied territory with the best America has to offer. And now I'm being micromanaged to the point I'm told exactly what to do. It's humiliating and heartbreaking at the same time. My sense of self started to decay, and I wondered who I really am because it's obvious that the persona that I thought I was, enmeshment, work was central to that persona. The self objectification was happening. So the reality of the situation is I really do have much more to offer than what I think I have to offer. So, with these things in mind, I took the advice of my wife and I got a hobby. I love listening to podcasts. I usually drive 30 to 45 minutes to work every day. So, I use that time to listen to podcasts on things that I'm interested in. And one of the things I've always been interested in is self help or improvement. And I decided I would try podcasting. And it wasn't until I wrote the first episode, which was going to be my origin story, that I realized that I still self objectify and work is still central to my identity as a person. I've looked back and I realized the emotional roller coaster I've been on because I self objectify and place work at the central part of my identity. This is dangerous because typically speaking, there's a lot of work that's out of our control, like I kind of mentioned earlier. When work is out of your control, and it could be corporate, it could be your manager, it could be your clients, there's things that are outside of your control. This is dangerous because typically speaking, there's a lot of work that's out of our control, especially if you work in some type of corporate or retail space or the military where decisions are made much higher and carried out at the lowest level. So when you self objectify, there's no way you're going to be fulfilled or happy because the thing that you're trying to identify to, generally speaking, is out of your control. This sets you up for mental and emotional failure. But I think, therefore, I am. No one's coming. It's up to us. You have to shift your paradigm and think of it in a different way. What I'm recommending you do is get off the emotional roller coaster of self objectification with work and work role centrality. So, how do we get off the roller coaster? I would recommend that you learn to divorce yourself from high work role centrality. Try and notice I intentionally use try here because I'm doing this in real time with you. Try to learn to accept that it's just a job. It's just a place where you go. And while you're out there, you put your best foot forward and do the job to the best of your abilities. But when you leave that job, you leave it at work. I've struggled with this my entire life of not leaving work at work. And when I got out of the military, I thought that being a civilian would force me into that mindset. I wasn't doing anything for the greater good per se. I'm not rescuing hostages or schwacking bad guys, but currently I'm writing operators manuals for helicopters. The reality is I was still looking for validation from my work. I still am looking for validation from my work. That if I did a good job, my manager would think this guy is the best and people would like me and everything would be great and fulfilled, but that's just not reality. Oddly enough, my first boss in the civilian world, a retired Army battalion commander from Jamaica, Queens, New York, he blurts out PMOF. And the context of the conversation is I was complaining about efficiency and how things could be better and how our upper management doesn't want to be better because there's no incentive to be better. And he just cuts me off and says, "Peem off." Again, I start up with my bitching and he cuts me off, "Peem off." And I said, "What the fuck is peem off?" He says, "Pay me on Friday." Now, my first thought was, this guy is part of the problem because he doesn't get it. I just want to be better. Looking back on it, I was still in that thought process of trying to be better for the sake of impressing other folks. The real answer is I didn't get it, but he did. And I thank him for that wisdom in those 4 letters: PMOF, pay me on Friday. Around this time, I happened to pick up a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Allen Singer. And I'm not sure if my wife had recommended it, but the timing was serendipitous. So, full disclosure, this book is a little love and light and raise your vibrations, if you know what I mean. But there are some good takeaways here. And the book asks questions. Who are you? And it has a lot of kind of Buddhist, Hindu undertones there. Michael Singer is talking about Ramana Maharshi. He was a yogi, a great teacher in the yogic tradition, and he used to say, to attain inner freedom, one must continually and sincerely ask the question, "Who am I?" And he taught that this was more important than reading books, learning mantras, or going to holy place. Just ask, "Who am I?" Who sees what I see? Who hears what I hear? Who knows what I am aware of? Who am I? So Singer says, let's explore this question by playing a game. Pretend that you and I are having a conversation. Now, typically in Western cultures, when someone comes up to you and asks, "Excuse me, who are you?" you don't admonish them for asking such a deep question. You tell them your name. Now, for the purposes of the reading here, I'm going to be playing both the part of the person asking the question and the person answering the question. So they ask me, "Who are you?" And I'm going to say, "My name is Thad." Now, as the person asking the question, I'm going to write my name down on a piece of paper and I read it to you. THAD. Is that who you are? A collection of letters? Is that who sees when you sees? Obviously not. So you say, "Okay, you're right. I'm not Thad. That's just a name people call me. It's a label. I'm really Patty's husband." Well, how could you be Patty's husband? Are you saying that you didn't exist before you met Patty? Patty and you would cease to exist if she died and you got remarried? Patty's husband can't be who you are. That's just another label, the result of another situation or event you participated in. But then who are you? I think about it and I respond, "Okay, I got it. My name is Thad. I was born in the 1970s in South Carolina, and I lived in Charleston with my parents until I was 5 years old and they got divorced. We moved to North Carolina. I went to multiple schools. I got mostly C's. And in the 5th grade, I joined the Boy Scouts. I then went to military boarding school in the 11th grade, and I went to North Georgia College where I flunked out and joined the Army. And I met Patty and I married her. That is who I am." Wait. That's a great story, but I didn't ask you what has happened to you since you were born. I ask you, who are you? You've just described all these experiences, but who had these experiences? Wouldn't you still be there, aware of your existence, even if you had gone to a different college? So I kind of think about this and I realize that I've never in my life asked my question that and really meant it. Who am I? And this is what Ramana Maharshi was asking. So you ponder this a little bit more seriously and you say, "Okay, I'm the body that is occupying this space. I am 5'9". I weigh 200 pounds, and here I am. Well, when you were in the Boy Scouts in the 5th grade, you weren't 5'9" and 200 pounds. You were 4'11". So which are you? Are you the 4'11" person, or are you the 5'9" person? Weren't you the weren't you there when you were a Boy Scout? You told me you were. Are you not the one who had the experience of not tying or learning to be prepared in the 5th grade and is now having the experience trying to answer my questions? Isn't this the same you? What I'm getting at here is this is a very, very deep question. In the book, Michael Singer goes into talking about dreaming, and are you watching your dreams? How is that the same you that is in this reality? It gets pretty deep. And what he's kind of driving at is these are all questions that don't really describe who you are. And the point is, if you try to give an honest, intuitive answer, you're simply going to say, me. It's just me. I'm in here experiencing all this. And that's about the best answer that I'm ever going to give, or you or anyone could give. So, how do we overcome this? How do we fix this? So, here's how I'm working through this in my life. I'm struggling with my identity of who I am. So, what I'm planning to do is write a list of everything that I think I am, and then I'm going to conduct my day to day life. I'm going to record which activities are meaningful and make me feel happy or content, and which make me feel angry and frustrated. Full disclosure, there's probably going to be a lot of anger and frustration coming your way. I'm going to start that for 30 days. And at the end of the 30 days, I'm going to compare and contrast what things give me meaning and make me feel content. And those are the things that I plan to start shifting my energy and time to. Because right now, whatever I'm doing is not working. Work is having the opposite effect. It's bringing me down. So I plan to shift my energy into things that are better for me. I also am planning to take some deliberate time away from work. For you, that could be the thing that you're enmeshed with. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's work, maybe it's work, maybe it's an idea. For me, it's definitely my career. So I'm going to take some time away. I'm going to deliberately put some boundaries on working. And I'm also going to explore some cross career relationships, things that I could pivot to, as in career fields that I could pivot to, that I could use some of the skills and things I've learned throughout my career, but kind of make them more or use them in a different way. So for me, maybe that would be teaching, or maybe it's this podcast. I always say that your brain is like an iceberg. It can only hold so many penguins. And I've got to shift some of these penguins from one side to the other. And some penguins just frankly got to go. So I think another way to look at this is the way Dr. Leahy describes it. And he says this: imagine if you had all your money on one number at a roulette wheel in Las Vegas. They're spinning the wheel and you could lose it all. That's how you're defining yourself. It all rides on having that job. But is that really reality? No, it's Vegas. Don't put all of your time and effort into something that's not going to be there when you're dead. Guys, I'm saying this to myself. I'm not saying this to you, but I'm saying this. I have to do this myself because I'm not living this right now. This is just the vessel for me to hear myself saying it. And maybe you can take some of what I'm doing here and maybe it'll help you. But if it doesn't, this is for me. My wife cares for elderly folks that have dementia, and typically they are in their last stages of life, and none of them on their deathbed has said, I wish I had more time at the office, or I'm glad I stayed late all those times so Bob, the manager, could get more accolades and get that promotion. Nobody says that. And do you know how many times people have told me that and I don't listen to them? And now here I am telling myself that, and hopefully you will hear the words coming out of my mouth. You're living in a fantasy world. No one is coming. It's up to us.
Thanks for listening to No One Is Coming, It's Up to Us. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. While you're at it, help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember, no one is coming. It's up to us.